From St. Cloud, Florida, this is the Phoenix Rising Radio Network.
I'm proud of you fellas. You all kept your head on a swivel, and that's what you gotta do when you find yourself in a vicious cockfight.
And we're on the website, baby. We're broadcasting all over the world. Doc Show Coast to Coast.
Welcome to the Doc Show Coast to Coast with Doc Holliday.
You'd think he'd change that for show business.
I never say anything dumb. Everything I say is right. You just have to give it some time.
Weeknights, 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, my God. There's 100 morons in my basement.
And that's what Iran and all its people are. They are sons of the devil. You're going to be sorry you said that.
Give Doc a call, 407-498-3193.
Hey, so can we go to Cuba? You know, because Barack Insane Obama says the Cubans and the Cuban government are no longer terrorists. 50 years it took to figure this out.
Now, I must ask that small children leave, good women avert their eyes, and men take a stiff slug of circus whiskey. Behold, the most hideous creature of all.
Welcome to the Doc Show, Coast to Coast, with Doc Holliday.
All right, man, streaming all over the world. Listening to us tonight on iTunes, Apple Radio, Apple TV. How y'all doing? You're going to hear a couple of young fellas debate. TuneIn Radio, the TuneIn Radio Network. And if you're just listening on DocShowCoastToCoast.com, that's fine, too. There's a good 6 or 7 ways to listen. So, each one of these guys will have 2 minutes and a response. And if they want to go at it, they can go at it. I'm going to ask them about questions that are concerning people in this presidential debate, yet I don't want you guys to parrot Hillary or Donald. Yeah, I want to know what you think. Okay, now, the way I'm going to start it off is I will start it off with you, and
thank you.
I'm going to start it off with, okay, one of the things people are talking about is how the Democratic Party, you represent the Democrats, and the first actual is going to be immigration. All right, now I'm going to let you know, you give me your answer on it. If it doesn't agree with 100% with Hillary or Obama, God bless us all, then it doesn't matter. I want your opinion. You know, your opinion is what matters here, because they like to tell you how to think, and some people get brainwashed. And to hear you tell us how you think, you're still going to be different no matter what. But it's not. It's a matter of, if I was sitting here with Barack Obama and I got done choking him and we went on the air and I asked him about this ridiculous immigration policy that he has. So what I'm going to start with you, Mr. Boggs. Immigration is a big focal point of the election between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. The Democrats favor open borders. The Democrats don't have a problem by bringing in Muslim refugees who committed crimes in other countries. A lot of people have their own suspicions on why. The bottom line is, should the borders be open? Should people who spent so much time trying to come in legal, spending lots of money, should they have to put up with the fact that the Democrats rolled the borders back and invite everybody in? And what is your take on immigration as far as the way we handle it now? Would you change the way it's handled now, or do you think that we should have open borders? Go ahead.
I absolutely am a fan of having a more open system for immigration into this country. It is what has revitalized this country many times over, taking in new communities, especially when they were in their most time of need. The argument that because of crime or social issues that immigrants, they're human beings too, so they inevitably will some of them will be criminals. And the best way inevitably to stymie crime, in my opinion, is to actually allow them to find a way to integrate into the society just a little bit more quickly and not to have to live in poverty. Eventually, poverty is what comes back to us to bite us in the butt, is that we, predominantly immigrants live they are undocumented and they live in poverty here in the United States. Children who are given a better opportunity generally turn out better, and immigrant children are no different. Their productivity rates are the same as ours. So there's no reason to stop it unless we can prove through what should be a strong cooperative program that they are criminals. I'm not exactly against the argument that criminals should be barred from coming into this country. Then again, are they violent or are they not? A lot of issues come into that, and that's why you need a large program for it.
With 30 seconds left, somebody might say to you, why should we pay for it? I mean, really, and why should we take in and the Muslim religion? They are the terrorists of the world right now. It changes as time goes on. With 30 seconds left, why should we take in people who could present harm and danger without proper vetting?
Because you're only, my answer to that, not without being rude, is that you're really just putting them as being across the line from you. Under that logic, we should also be kicking criminals who are born in America out of the country and keeping them out. I'm sorry, I don't like national borders in the first place. And if we're talking about job loss, capital is movable across borders at this point. It's pretty easy to go from one country to the next, especially thanks to regionalist trade deals. So labor has to be mobile as well.
All right, Michael, your response. Same question. Jonathan. I'm sorry, Jonathan.
You really are...
No, I'm just looking. I got all
Anderson
kinds of...
Cooper.
I have all kinds of different...
You were talking to Matt. Now you got John.
Anyway, Jonathan, your response to his question and your response to the fact that we do have a lot of illegal immigrants that are coming in here, and they are committing murders, and there are people that are coming in that are committing crimes for Islam. And we have a president who believes, such as Mr. Boggs over here, that open borders are fine without any vetting. So what do you think about that?
Where to start? First of all, I'd like to say, point out what's the responsibility of government. Not what's its job to be, in the realm of compassion, but what is its responsibility? And I would say it boils down to protecting its citizens and giving them a right to thrive and the ability to thrive. Now, I'm going to tell a quick, parallel story. If I'm driving down the road, I am one to pick up a hitchhiker in my car. However, if I have my 3 younger siblings in the car, I wouldn't pick them up. Why? Do I have less compassion? No, but I look at the government as an entity, yes, but a person, no. Its job is to protect the citizens of that nation. Now, I believe 100% that we built this country with the help and on the backs of immigrants. However, they came here legally. As far as illegal immigration, it has it right in the name. It's illegal. If I was an immigrant, my brother wants to come into this country, I would like him to go through the processes. That's part of the processes are there to help you assimilate to the culture. He mentioned poverty, but if you have immigrants here coming with the purpose of being successful, that's great. What Rick Scott did that was really cool was he called in successful business people, essentially stole them away, which is kind of bad for whatever country he stole them from, and gave them incentive to set up their business here. That is an immigration policy that we should be looking at. We should not let or even want somebody living in poverty to come live in poverty here. I don't see the difference between them being in poverty there or here. What we could do, and this brings into a whole lot of other issues, is work on economic policy. Work on making America a thriving country. We will always have a way to get into this country, and I think the more jobs we have, the more of a surplus there is for need of workers, the more people will be able to let in this country. You said I don't have to, but I will go right ahead and agree with Donald Trump when he says we're going to build a wall, and there's going to be a big, beautiful door. Okay, and if Donald Trump can make many more jobs, all right, and those jobs are able to be filled by immigrants, and we can bring those people along with the jobs through the border, that is wonderful. But having an open border when we can hardly support our own infrastructure, and when, especially in this county, for example, homelessness is growing faster than the amount of jobs that are available is growing, we have bigger problems. And while it is under compassion, the responsibility of government needs to remain the same.
All right. Now, you get 30 seconds to answer that. And let me throw this into your mind. He mentions homelessness, and a lot of the homeless are veterans that were sent to war by both the Republican and the Democratic Party to fight terror. Yet, when they return to the United States, their jobs aren't there for them. There's no medical care for them. Yet, we're letting in people in the open borders who are given housing and who are giving medical care and who are given an access to welfare. So that would be where he was going with that.
And my answer to that would be that economics is your only adversary there. If we want to, we can feed, clothe, and house and give medicine to everybody eventually. It really is just a matter of wanting to build a system that allows everybody to be able to go and get the necessities from their society. Healthcare, food being, some of the top ones, definitely.
Okay. Did you want to refute?
Yes, I do. In fact, you say that, but at the same time, as it stands right now, the medical services and the services that are given to illegals are paid by, and the government will say they're paid by tax dollars. Here's someone myself. I don't have health insurance, and I'll explain why I don't have health insurance and why I feel under Obamacare it's safer not to have it. And it hurts it. It hurts the system, but somebody is paying for it. And that money needs to be handled better. As it stands, you're exactly right. The veterans are receiving very much less care, and I think Matthew and I can both agree that that is unacceptable, and that is the government foregoing its responsibility in the name of compassion. And as far as compassion goes, I don't think it goes far enough to say it's realistic to say that we are going to help every immigrant by bringing every down and impoverished person by bringing them into our country. But again, I say, if America thrives and America has a beautiful spirit of compassion towards other people in the world, if and when America thrives, the entire world will benefit off of it. Maybe not by bringing them here, because we might not have room.
Okay. Now, real quick.
Well, I just wanted to say that myself and you and Jonathan here, and maybe even Sam, I'm sure that we would find a lot of disagreement on taxes. If you make over $500,000, any dollar over that, if it was up to me, it would be taxed at least 50%. And that would be in heavily vibrant times of economic, because I want to bring money back into public use, because we need a large public sector.
So you're saying people are too dumb to spend their money and the government knows how to spend it better than somebody does?
As a society as a whole, yes.
But then how come the
that.
government isn't making as much money as the big businesses are?
Well, the government's business is not business. It's to spend money.
Well, see, the government also prints its own money, too.
Isn't that a shame?
I might be the only one in here that's a proponent of this, but my whole thing with the IRS is get rid of the IRS and go to the fair tax.
I wish I could agree with you. I know it sounds simple, but I come up with reasons why I'm against that.
It's not simple. I mean, obviously, there would be a huge transition. You've got to get rid of a corrupt IRS.
74,000 pages of tax code is a bit much, though.
But
I'll grant you that.
But the thing is, and you call a different tax, IRS employee, you get a different answer. So it's a big problem. It's a big problem. But my whole thing is with the fair tax is we wouldn't be having this conversation on is everybody paying the right tax, because they're paying taxes on what they consume.
All right, Matthew, let me get back to you here. Change the subject now. We're talking about money, so let's talk about the salaries in America that young people, sometimes people that are 30 and 40, minimum wage. All right. I think for the most part, minimum wage stands around $9 an hour. There are companies that they would pay 10 or 11. But the big controversy now is, and the fast food workers are the ones leading the charge, $15 an hour when our soldiers don't make $15 an hour. And the small businesses say that will wipe them out. Agree, disagree?
I would say that is a deteriorating cycle because in the end, the problem is that wealth is not being dispersed to workers as much as it used to in the American economy. It's going predominantly to owners and manipulators, and the wage of the average American has stagnated since. And I'm sorry to say this because your listeners may not enjoy it, but that began with Reagan. Now we were going through a decline in the 70s and 60s, but in 80 the minimum wage was no longer tacked to inflation, and it should have remained that way. You should have always gotten a certain amount of the economy, not a certain amount of dollars, but a certain stake in the economy for every hour you worked. And the American worker is not getting the right amount of money for their work.
Well, anybody could say, wow, geez, $9 an hour isn't much. But when people come out and say, and the Democrats are in favor of, now you got to remember, if Hillary Clinton wins this election, the potential of a 16-year run of Democrats. Mm-hmm. Okay, and at some point in time, the minimum wage goes to $15 an hour, and small businesses start to fail.
Then here's that goes into banking and everything, because I'm also personally, I can't say this is the Democratic Party, but I'm a very strong advocate for a U.S. bank that can lend to small business owners, that can at a 2% interest loan just to get small business going again, and that would come from a large corporate income tax.
All right, I got to say, you got a lot to answer there, so I'm gonna shut up and just let you go. Minimum wage, $15 an hour, hurts small businesses, helps. What do you think?
I would say it hurts small businesses. Any one of us can walk outside. I could walk outside, and personally, I could say, hey, I want my minimum wage to be $18 an hour. And hell, if I find a job for $18 an hour, that's fine. Let's say you want minimum wage to be $15 an hour, 40 hours a week. I don't see that happening. Inflation will catch up. Who it hurts, it'll hurt and help people. Who it hurts are senior citizens. Inflation won't catch up enough for their Social Security and stuff to come up. And the prices of any American products, any food especially, gasoline to a slower extent, will skyrocket within weeks of what the minimum wage is. And the price will go up. It will, because companies will look at each other and say, hey, this is an excuse. Even if they don't have to, they'll use it as an excuse to raise the prices. And here you have senior citizens who will suffer horrendously under this new higher minimum wage. Another thing is, right now, there are 40,000 people working for exactly minimum wage in the state of Florida. 40,000. Now, below $15 an hour, that's a whole lot more. I make what I consider a livable wage. It's under $15 an hour, but I make considerably more than the minimum wage because I'd like to think that I do a little bit more than flipping burgers. But I have worked for a minimum wage job. I worked on a go-kart track, sitting outside, the whole day. I enjoyed that job, and it was good for me at the time. I made, outside of the wage system, $5 an hour when I was 15, 14 years old, digging holes. And I would have never had that job if it was too strict. Most of the people who work for minimum wage, like I said, only 40,000 of them, are very young. And most of those jobs are replaceable with robots. I mean, you'd have a couple people working in the managers who already get paid more than $15 an hour at McDonald's. They would still be there. You'd have maybe two other people helping put the assembly lines together. It would hurt the worker because they would have a harder workload, and they might get less hours.
All right, Matthew, does it hurt the worker, and does it really hurt the elderly? Or can the elderly then maybe go work for $15?
That only requires raising. In order to help the elderly, we only have to raise the Social Security tax, and then just start giving out higher and higher COLAs.
Why is it so small? I mean, we expect, and Democrats are pretty notorious for this, that Social Security stays at approximately $11,000 to $12,000. Some of it's lower. Some of it's in the 8s and the 9s. Mm-hmm. It depends what you made as a worker in your time as a worker. It's also like the unemployment. It pays in the state of Florida $500, and that's only every other week. That's only if you don't want taxes taken out. You better get your taxes taken out of that. Okay, so minimum wage at $15 an hour, he says, are going to hurt the elderly, meaning they'll make less Social Security? Is that where they're going to take the money from?
I don't think so.
I didn't say they were going to make less money. What I said was
Now, how does it hurt them?
Social Security's already adjusted for inflation to an extent.
Not enough, though. It's what I would say.
And what I would say is that the
definitely not.
prices of especially food, groceries, things that elderly people need the most, those prices are going to skew very much so up before it can catch up. And these elderly people on fixed incomes are going to have a really, really hard time catching up. Also, I actually would, if I had more time, I would argue for no minimum wage. We need to have a marketplace for labor, and a minimum wage puts a floor on that. Now, this would be, I honestly think wages overall would go up if there wasn't a minimum wage, because all of a sudden, right now, what you have is kind of a consensus for low-skilled jobs. And if we could build a surplus of jobs where they're trying to raise prices, I believe we'd get close to $11 or $12 an hour without a minimum wage.
Well, that's where you lose me, I have to be quite honest.
All right, go ahead. You have 30 seconds, and then we get a break.
A surplus of jobs is antithetical to capitalism in general. There's always the drive to, you mentioned robots, and trust me, I'm for the robots. I want the robots to do all the manufacturing so we human beings can, take more time to ourselves, but we can't do that if all of us depend upon hourly wage labor. At a certain point, we're going to have to just say that human beings have a right to sit around and do nothing if there's nothing that needs to be done.
That sounds like a really boring job to me.
Okay.
A really boring life.
I just want to comment on the wage thing though for a second. My whole thing with minimum wage at $15 an hour. First of all, when I first moved to Florida in 1998, I was a whopping 21 years old, and I worked at McDonald's. And you know what? That was the job I found when I moved here. Mm-hmm. And I had roommates, so it wasn't such a horrible concept that I made whatever it was that I made, because I was able to make the rent because I had roommates.
Somewhere around $3 back then, I think.
That old. But it was, it wasn't a huge minimum wage. But here's the thing, and this is the only thing that I will say to young people that are in the restaurant industry like that. You have opportunities within those organizations to do very well. If you choose... Now, hold up, because I was offered the opportunity to go to college, earn a degree, and go through, you can laugh, Hamburger University. But those restaurant managers...
is true.
Those restaurant managers, people are coming in, getting managerial jobs in McDonald's with a college degree. And at that time, and I say in 1998, walking in, making $29,000 a year, never having done anything in the restaurant industry. McDonald's will pay for you to go through the program. You become a restaurant manager, you're making six figures a year. It's a hell of a job, and you've got to really want to do it because it sucks. You're on call 24/7. Somebody breaks into the store. But my point is, you want more money? That's fine. But with more money comes more responsibility.
Sorry, my in-candid interruption. But like I said, I could walk out the house right now and say, I want a $15 minimum wage. I will not accept a job that pays me less than that. And I guarantee it might take me, a month rather than a week to find that job. But I guarantee you, me, not a college graduate yet, could go out and secure myself a $15 an hour job in the system we have today. I have worked for minimum wage one time in my life, other than the time I was working, for cash. But by the time I was 15, I was making $3 more than minimum wage an hour.
Okay, we do have to take a break. I'm coming back with Matthew. We're going to stay on this topic because you said something I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. And it had to do with the robots that McDonald's now is putting into their restaurants. Mm-hmm. There are some McDonald's that are actually paying the $15
I'm not going to lie.
hour.
Sometimes when I go up to the drive-thru and I hear the robot talking to me, I don't know if it's a real person or the actual record. I've actually caught myself at that time. It's kind of creepy.
Well, I think the robots probably sound better than the real people in the.
Sometimes they do. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie.
McDonald's makes a lot of money. They can improve that speaker system.
They absolutely could.
Matthew Boggs is up. When we come back. We're going to continue on with minimum wage. Just one thing that I wanted him to clear up that he had said, and then we shall move on into the second hour. You guys are doing a good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's nice not having to think too much. I like that. You guys want to come back anytime, that's fine. And you can also ask a question.
Yes.
Of either of one of these guys. They're not parroting Trump and Hillary. They're putting their own spin, and Matthew's a Democrat and Jonathan Republican. They may not sound like the normal Republican and Democrat, but then
They're
again,
not beating each other up. It's amazing. It's refreshing.
They let each other talk too. This is very odd.
I know.
We don't know what's going to happen.
The world could follow their example.
In the second hour, it could turn into the Springer Show. I have no idea. But here's your phone number, 407-498-3193. That's toll-free throughout the continental United States of America, as long as you're using a smartphone and calling us here at the station. We shall return. This is the Doc Show, Coast to Coast.